The Galactic Council chambers on Harmony Prime Station were magnificent. The circular room could hold representatives from 1,000 different species. The walls were made of crystal that showed images of every member world. At the center stood the judgment platform, where the High Arbiter and senior counselors made decisions that affected billions of lives across the galaxy. Today, the chamber was packed. Every species had sent representatives to witness the hearing about New Pyongyang. Ambassador Sunho Kim stood on the speaking platform, his face exhausted. He had not slept in 3 days. Behind him on the massive display screens, the evidence played on repeat. Sensor logs, communication records, video footage from the survivors' shuttles showing the orbital bombardment. Fleet Admiral Jiwan Nam watched from Earth via hologram link. She stood in the military command center in Seoul, her jaw tight as she listened to Sunho present their case. Sunho's voice was steady but filled with barely controlled rage. Honored counselors, the evidence is clear. The Valtrine Empire attacked a peaceful civilian colony without warning. They ignored all attempts at communication. They rejected evacuation requests. Then they systematically murdered 14,237 innocent people. 3,000 were children. This was not a military action. This was genocide, the gallery murmured. Some species nodded in agreement. Others whispered to their neighbors. Sunho pressed a control and new images appeared. I now present testimony from the survivors. Dr. Yoonji Park appeared on the screen. She looked broken, her eyes red from crying. I was the chief medical officer. I ran the colony hospital. When the attack started, I had 273 patients in care. Elderly people, pregnant women, sick children. The Valtrine bombed the hospital directly. Everyone inside died. I only survived because I was in another building at the time. The recording switched to young Doyen Lee. He was only 23 years old, but he looked ancient now. They did not even give us a chance. 10 minutes. They said we had 10 minutes to surrender an entire planet. How do you evacuate 15,000 people in 10 minutes? You cannot. They knew we could not. They wanted to kill us. The chamber was silent now. Sunho let the testimony sink in, then continued. The Galactic Council exists to prevent exactly this kind of atrocity. The Council's charter guarantees protection to all member species. Humanity joined this council in good faith. We followed all settlement protocols. We registered our claim to Kepler 442b. The council approved it. We built our colony according to every regulation. And when we were attacked, we immediately invoked council protection. Ambassador Hyunwoo Choi followed every correct procedure. He paused, his voice growing harder. Ambassador Choi died still waiting for the council to respond to his protection request. He died believing the council would save his people. He was wrong. More murmuring from the gallery. Some species shifted uncomfortably. We demand justice, Sunho said. We demand the Valtrine Empire be held accountable for war crimes. We demand extradition of the military commanders who ordered this attack. We demand reparations for the families of the murdered. And we demand guarantees that the council will actually enforce its own laws. He sat down, his part finished. Now it was the Valtrine's turn. Councillor Vrex clicked and chittered as he approached the platform. The Valtrine were insectoid, with hard exoskeletons and multiple eyes. Vrex stood nearly 8 feet tall, his mandibles clicking as he prepared to speak. The Valtrine Empire regrets the loss of human life, Vrex began. His translator made his voice sound almost bored. However, the human colony was established in territory that the Valtrine Empire has claimed for centuries. Our ancient star maps show this system as part of our expansion zone. The humans were informed of this and given ample time to surrender. Sunho jumped to his feet. Lies, we received no prior communication. The first contact was the attack. High Arbiter Kolmek, a crystalline being who glowed with internal light, raised one appendage. Ambassador Kim, you will have time for rebuttal. Councillor Vrex, continue. Vrex's mandibles twitched in what might have been a smile. The human military installation on the planet posed a direct threat to Valtrine security interests. Our fleet commander acted appropriately to neutralize that threat. Military installation? Sunho shouted. It was a farming colony. Our only weapons were designed to stop asteroids. Ambassador Kim, you are out of order, Kolmek said firmly. Sit down. Sunho sat, but his hands were shaking with rage. Vrex continued for another 20 minutes, painting the attack as a regrettable but necessary military action. He claimed the humans had been warned multiple times. He showed falsified documents suggesting the colony had been conducting illegal mining operations. He even suggested that the humans had fired first. When he finished, the council debated for 6 hours. Intelligence Officer Taehyun Song sat in the observation gallery, recording everything. He was part of Earth's diplomatic security team, and his job was to watch the council members carefully. What he saw made him sick. Several council members left the chamber to take private communications. Taehyun tracked where those communications went. 3 calls went to Valtrine Empire offices. 2 went to banks on commercial hub worlds. 1 went to a corporate headquarters that did massive trade deals with the Valtrine. He compiled the data and sent it to Admiral Jiwon back on Earth with a simple message. They're being bribed. Finally, High Arbiter Kolmek called for a vote. The Council has reviewed the evidence and testimony regarding the incident at New Pyongyang Colony. We find that while the Valtrine Empire's actions were regrettable, they were technically within their rights under ancient territorial claims. However, we also acknowledge that the human colonists believed they had legitimate settlement rights. Sunho felt his heart sink. Therefore, Kolmek continued, the Council rules that this was a tragic misunderstanding, not a war crime. We offer our condolences to humanity for their losses. The Valtrine Empire is ordered to pay reparations of 5 million credits to be distributed among the survivors. 5 million credits for 14,000 lives. That was less than 400 credits per person, about $30 each. Sunho stood slowly. His voice was deadly quiet. A tragic misunderstanding. That is what you call the murder of 14,000 innocent people. Ambassador Kim, the Council has ruled, Kolmek said. The Council is bought and paid for, Sunho replied. He turned to look at Vrex. And you are a murderer who will never face justice from these cowards. The chamber erupted in shouts. Several species demanded Sunho be removed for contempt. Kolmek tried to restore order.
Ambassador Kim, you will retract that statement and apologize.
No, Sunho said. He removed his ambassador's credentials and dropped them on the platform.
Humanity withdraws from this council.
We withdraw from all treaties, all agreements, all cooperation. You had one job to provide justice. You failed. You traded human lives for Valtrine money. He walked toward the exit. As he passed the hologram of Admiral Jiwon, he saw her nod once. She understood. Earth understood. Sunho addressed the chamber one final time. Humanity will remember this day. We will remember that when we needed justice, the galaxy gave us excuses. When we needed protection, you gave us platitudes. When we begged for help, you counted your profits. He left the chamber. Behind him, the council members muttered and complained about human emotional instability. Back on Earth, Fleet Admiral Jiwon Nam ended the hologram connection. She turned to her command staff, all of them watching her with hard eyes. Send the signal, she said quietly. Activate protocol reckoning. All across human space, military commanders received the same encrypted message. It was short, just 3 words, but it changed everything. No more negotiations. The war had begun. President Jeon Han stood before the cameras in the Blue House in Seoul. Behind her, the flags of United Earth hung in a row. Every nation, every culture, united under one government for the first time in human history. It had taken centuries of conflict and cooperation to reach this point, but humanity had finally come together. Today, that unity would be tested. Citizens of Earth, Jian began. By now you have all heard about the massacre at New Pyongyang. You have seen the footage. You have heard the survivors' stories. 14,000 of our brothers and sisters were murdered in cold blood. 3,000 children burned under orbital bombardment. Our friends, our families, our future, gone. Her voice did not waver, but her eyes showed the rage burning inside. We asked the Galactic Council for justice. They gave us excuses. We asked for accountability. They gave us insults. 5 million credits. That is what they think our people's lives were worth. About $30 per person. Across Earth, billions watched. In New York, London, Mumbai, Lagos, and Sao Paulo, people gathered in public squares to watch the broadcast. Everyone had stopped working. Everyone had stopped moving. Everyone was listening. The Valtrine Empire murdered our people and the galaxy did nothing, Jian continued. They did nothing because they are comfortable. They are wealthy. They profit from trade with the Valtrine. They will not risk their comfortable lives for justice. They will not stand up to murderers. She paused, letting that sink in. But we will. The crowd in Seoul's plaza erupted in cheers. Similar reactions happen worldwide. Today I am announcing that humanity withdraws from all Galactic Council activities. We withdraw our diplomats. We close our embassies. We end all cooperation with Council-affiliated organizations. We will not participate in a system that values money over lives. She took a breath. I am also announcing total mobilization of Earth's resources. Every shipyard will begin military production. Every factory will support the war effort. Every person who wishes to serve will be trained and equipped. On military bases around the world, recruiters were already being overwhelmed. The first day of mobilization saw 10 million volunteers. By the end of the week, it would be 100 million. We will not negotiate with murderers, Jian said. Not now, not ever. The Valtrine Empire will answer for their crimes. Justice will be served. I promise you this. The broadcast ended. In Geneva, Fleet Admiral Ji-won Nam was already in her element. She stood in the underground command center that humanity had been building in secret for decades. Protocol Reckoning had been planned long ago, back when humanity first joined the Galactic Council and realized how dangerous the galaxy could be. The protocol had 3 phases. First, total mobilization. Second, technological surprise. Third, overwhelming force. General Bora Shin entered the command center, her marine uniform crisp despite the early hour. Admiral, the first wave of volunteers is being processed now. We'll have 500,000 trained Marines within 3 months. Ji-won nodded. Good, what about the fleet? All ships are being recalled from civilian routes. We have 800 warships ready for combat operations. The shipyards are beginning construction on 3,000 more. Estimated completion, 18 months. Too slow, Ji-won said. Accelerate the timeline. I want 1,500 new ships in 12 months. Bora whistled. That's going to require round-the-clock shifts and massive resource allocation. Then allocate them. We're at war. Everything else is secondary. Dr. Ha Jun-yoon arrived next. He was the director of advanced weapons research, and he looked excited rather than worried. Admiral, we're ready to deploy the technologies we've been developing. Ji-won smiled. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 50 years, and during that time, they had been studying galactic technology carefully. But they had also been developing their own innovations in secret, things the galaxy did not know about. Show me, Ji-won said. Ha-jun pulled up a holographic display. First, stealth technology. We've developed quantum cloaking that makes our ships completely invisible to all known sensor types. The Valtrine won't even know we're there until we start shooting. He switched the display. Second, weapon systems. We've miniaturized antimatter warheads. Our missiles are smaller, faster, and more powerful than anything the Valtrine have. One human destroyer can output the firepower of 3 Valtrine battleships. Another switch. Third, targeting systems. We've developed neural link combat AI. Our ship's computers interface directly with our crew's brains. Reaction time is cut by 90%. Accuracy increases by 300%. Ji-won leaned forward. How many ships can be equipped with these systems? All of them, Ha-jun said proudly. We've been stockpiling the components for years. We just needed authorization to install them. You have authorization, Ji-won said. Retrofit every ship in the fleet. Install the systems on every new ship under construction. Across Earth's orbit, the shipyards blazed with activity. The civilian traffic that normally filled near Earth space was gone, replaced by military vessels. Cargo ships brought raw materials from the asteroid belt and the moon. Construction drones worked in swarms, building hull sections and installing weapons. Captain Min Seo-an stood on the bridge of her ship, the stealth destroyer Indomitable. Her crew was small, only 50 people, but every one of them was the best at their job. The Indomitable was the first ship to receive the full suite of new technologies. Systems check, Min Seo ordered. Her tactical officer ran through the list. Quantum cloak operational. Antimatter missiles loaded. Neural link AI synchronized. All systems green, Min Seo smiled. Then let's go hunting. The Indomitable slipped away from Earth, completely invisible to any sensors. Its destination was Valtrine space. Its mission was intelligence gathering and target identification. But if any Valtrine ships got in the way, they would simply disappear. At a marine training facility in California, Doyen Lee pushed through his 100th push-up. He was not particularly strong or fast, but he had something that made him valuable. He was a survivor. He knew what the Valtrine were capable of. He knew what needed to be done. His drill instructor walked past, watching him carefully. "Lee, why are you here?" "To make them pay, sir," Doyen shouted. "Who?" "The Valtrine, sir." "Why?" "Because they murdered my friends, sir." "Because they killed children, sir." "Because someone has to stop them, sir." The drill instructor nodded. "Good answer. Keep going." Doyen kept doing push-ups. His arms burned. His back ached. He did not care. Every push-up was for someone who died at New Pyongyang. Every exercise was preparation for what was coming. Around him, hundreds of other recruits trained just as hard. Old and young, men and women from every nation and culture. All of them volunteers, all of them ready to fight. The galaxy thought humanity would negotiate. They thought humans were just another species that could be bullied into submission. They thought that because it had always worked before. Every species in the galaxy negotiated. Every species compromised. Every species valued peace over principles. They did not understand humans. Across Valtrine space, border patrols went about their routine duties. 12 ships, each crewed by professional soldiers, watched the frontier between Valtrine and human territory. They had heard about the incident at New Pyongyang, but they were not worried. Humans were weak. Humans were emotional. Humans would eventually accept the Council's ruling and move on. At 0300 hours, the patrol commander noticed something odd on his sensors. A slight distortion, barely visible. Probably just a sensor glitch. He reached for his communicator to report it, but before he could speak, his ship exploded. The other 11 ships tried to react. They powered weapons and shields. They sent distress calls. They searched for the enemy. They found nothing. One by one, they simply exploded. Silent. Invisible. Impossible. The last ship's final transmission was only 4 words. "What is that?" Then silence. Captain Minseo An watched the debris field spread on her sensors. All targets eliminated. 0 survivors. "They never saw us." Her tactical officer grinned. "The Valtrine are going to panic." "Good," Minseo said. "Fear is what they deserve. Target the next patrol route. Let's see how many we can destroy before they realize what's happening." The Indomitable vanished back into the darkness. A ghost ship hunting an empire. The war had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn something important about humanity. They did not negotiate with murderers. Lord Thexavar clicked his mandibles in frustration as he stared at the tactical display. 12 more ships had vanished overnight. That made 47 ships lost in the past 2 months, and the Valtrine military had no idea how it was happening. "Explain this to me again," he chittered at his intelligence officer. "How can an entire patrol simply disappear?" The officer's antennae drooped in a gesture of confusion. "Lord, we do not know. The ships send their regular reports and then they just stop. No distress calls. No weapon signatures. No debris fields until we send search parties later. It is as if they simply cease to exist." Thexavar's multiple eyes focused on the star map. Every lost ship was marked with a red icon. They formed a pattern along the human border. The humans. This is them. "But Lord, we cannot detect any human ships in those areas. Our sensors show nothing. Our patrols find nothing until it is too late." "Then our sensors are inadequate," Thexavar snapped. "The humans are there. They must be. Double all patrols. Travel only in fleet groups of at least 30 ships. If the humans want to attack, make them reveal themselves." The orders went out, but they did not help. Captain Minseo An smiled as she read the intercepted Valtrine communications. "They think traveling in larger groups will protect them. They still do not understand." Her tactical officer brought up the display showing a Valtrine fleet of 35 ships traveling together. "Target-rich environment, Captain." "Indeed. All ships, this is Minseo. We are going in. Remember your training. Silent running until we are in position, then fire everything at once. Make it quick." The Indomitable was not alone anymore. 30 human stealth destroyers moved into attack position. Completely invisible to the Valtrine sensors, they surrounded the Valtrine fleet like wolves circling prey. "Fire," Minseo said quietly. Space lit up with antimatter explosions. The Valtrine ships had no warning. Their shields were not even raised. In 15 seconds, 35 warships became expanding clouds of debris. "All ships jump out immediately," Minseo ordered. "Do not wait to confirm kills." The human ships vanished, leaving only wreckage behind. When the next Valtrine patrol found the debris field, they sent a priority message back to Thexvar. Entire fleet destroyed. No survivors. No indication of enemy ships in area. Thexvar realized then that the Valtrine Empire was facing an enemy they did not understand. On the surface of Valtrine colony worlds, different battles were being fought. Sergeant Doyen Lee crouched in the darkness, watching the Valtrine military compound through his helmet's enhanced vision. Around him, 23 other Marines waited in absolute silence. "Remember," Doyen whispered into his comm, "we are here for the human prisoners only. No civilian casualties. No unnecessary damage. Get in, get our people, get out." "Understood, Sergeant," his team replied. They moved like shadows. The Valtrine guards never saw them coming. Human stealth suits made them nearly invisible, and their weapons were equipped with suppressors. The Marines took down the guards silently, not killing them, just using stun weapons to knock them unconscious. Inside the compound, they found 17 human prisoners. Merchants and diplomats who had been arrested when the war started. The prisoners were thin and scared but alive. "United Earth Marines," Doyen said as he cut through the cell bars. "We are taking you home," one woman sobbed in relief. "I thought you had forgotten about us." "We never forget our people," Doyen replied. "Can you walk?" "Yes, then let us move. We have 10 minutes before the guards wake up." They extracted all 17 prisoners without firing a single lethal shot. By the time the Valtrine military realized what happened, the Marines were already off-planet and jumping to safety. This pattern repeated across Valtrine space. Human Special Forces teams struck at prisons, extracting captured humans. They hit military intelligence offices, stealing data about Valtrine operations. They sabotaged supply depots and communication stations. The Valtrine could not track them. They could not stop them. They could not even predict where the humans would strike next. Lieutenant Yuna Cho flew her starfighter through the asteroid field, her neural link AI helping her dodge obstacles at speeds that would kill any normal pilot. Behind her, 3 Valtrine interceptors tried desperately to keep up. They could not. Yuna's fighter was smaller and faster. Her AI predicted the Valtrine movements before they happened. She spun, fired, and watched one interceptor explode. She dove between 2 asteroids that were so close together that the Valtrine ships had to break off. When they came around, she was waiting. 2 quick shots. 2 more explosions. "Tango 3 here," she reported. 3 confirmed kills. "Returning to carrier." Her squadron commander responded immediately. "Confirmed, Tango 3. Good hunting. That brings your personal total to 51. Yuna did not feel proud. She felt tired. 51 Valtrine pilots dead by her hand. 51 lives taken in revenge for New Pyongyang. It did not feel like enough. It would never feel like enough. But it was necessary. Admiral Seojin Park stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution, watching the Valtrine 5th Fleet assemble for battle. Finally, the Valtrine had decided to face humanity in open combat, rather than just losing ships to invisible attacks. "All ships, battle stations," Seojin ordered calmly. "Execute Battle Plan Delta." The human 3rd Fleet moved into formation, 60 warships against 300 Valtrine vessels. On paper, it should have been a massacre. The Valtrine outnumbered humans 5-1, but numbers meant nothing when technology was superior. "Valtrine Fleet is powering weapons," his tactical officer reported. "They will be in firing range in 30 seconds. "Let them fire first," Seojin said. "Shields to maximum." All ships prepare to demonstrate why they should have accepted peace. The Valtrine fired. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human fleet. The human shields absorbed everything. Not a single ship took damage. "Now," Seojin said, "return fire. Show them the difference between their technology and ours." The human fleet fired as one. Every ship's AI was linked, creating a coordinated attack that targeted specific weak points on enemy vessels. The antimatter warheads were smaller than Valtrine weapons, but infinitely more powerful. Valtrine ships started exploding. Dozens at first, then hundreds. Their shields could not stop the human weapons. Their armor was like paper. Their ships were built for intimidation and trade protection, not real war. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, 300 Valtrine ships had been reduced to 47 survivors. The survivors fled, jumping to faster-than-light speeds in complete disarray. The human fleet had lost 23 ships. Most of those were damaged but repairable. Only 3 were total losses. Transmission from the Valtrine survivors, the communications officer said. They are begging for mercy, Seojun considered. Tell them mercy is available at the War Crimes Tribunal. If they want to live, they should surrender themselves to human custody and testify against their commanders. Otherwise they can run. We will find them eventually. Across the galaxy, species watched the battle footage in shock. The humans, who everyone thought were primitive and weak, had just destroyed a major Valtrine fleet with barely any losses. They had technology that nobody knew about. They had tactics that were devastatingly effective, and they showed no signs of stopping. On Valtros Prime, the Valtrine homeworld, Empress Sekthra watched the battle reports with growing concern. Her empire was losing, badly. In 6 months of fighting, they had lost over 800 ships, dozens of military installations, and control of 15 colony worlds. The humans had lost less than 100 ships and had not given back a single meter of territory they captured. We must petition the Galactic Council for intervention, one of her advisors suggested. The humans are fighting dishonorably. They use invisible ships and weapons that ignore shields. This is not civilized warfare. Sekthra clicked her mandibles in bitter amusement. We murdered their children and you speak of honor? We bombarded civilians and you speak of civilized warfare? But Empress, do it, she said tiredly. Petition the council. Beg them to save us. See if they care about honor when it is our lives at stake. The petition was sent. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. But the humans had a message prepared, and they transmitted it to every species in the galaxy. The Valtrine Empire asks for mercy. They ask for the galaxy to save them from the consequences of their own actions. They murdered 14,000 innocent humans and paid no price. Now they face justice and they cry that it is unfair. We have one response. We do not negotiate with murderers. Not now, not ever. Justice will be served. Lord Thexavar read the message and knew then that the Valtrine Empire was doomed unless they could stop the humans. He began preparing for a desperate gamble. If the humans would not negotiate, then he would make them. He would take hostages. He would use civilians as shields. He would force the humans to choose between their precious morals and their military objectives. He did not know that humans had already predicted this move. They had planned for it, and they had already decided what they would do. No compromises. No negotiations, only justice. Lord Thexavar clicked his mandibles in frustration as he stared at the tactical display. 12 more ships had vanished overnight. That made 47 ships lost in the past 2 months, and the Valtrine military had no idea how it was happening. Explain this to me again, he chittered at his intelligence officer. How can an entire patrol simply disappear? The officer's antennae drooped in a gesture of confusion. Lord, we do not know. The ships send their regular reports and then they just stop. No distress calls. No weapon signatures. No debris fields until we send search parties later. It is as if they simply cease to exist. Thexvar's multiple eyes focused on the star map. Every lost ship was marked with a red icon. They formed a pattern along the human border. The humans. This is them. But Lord, we cannot detect any human ships in those areas. Our sensors show nothing. Our patrols find nothing until it is too late. Then our sensors are inadequate, Thexvar snapped. The humans are there. They must be. Double all patrols. Travel only in fleet groups of at least 30 ships. If the humans want to attack, make them reveal themselves. The orders went out, but they did not help. Captain Minseo An smiled as she read the intercepted Valtrine communications. They think traveling in larger groups will protect them. They still do not understand. Her tactical officer brought up the display showing a Valtrine fleet of 35 ships traveling together. Target-rich environment, Captain. Indeed. All ships, this is Minseo. We are going in. Remember your training. Silent running until we are in position. Then fire everything at once. Make it quick. The Indomitable was not alone anymore. 30 human stealth destroyers moved into attack position, completely invisible to the Valtrine sensors. They surrounded the Valtrine fleet like wolves circling prey. Fire, Minseo said quietly. Space lit up with antimatter explosions. The Valtrine ships had no warning. Their shields were not even raised. In 15 seconds, 35 warships became expanding clouds of debris. All ships jump out immediately, Minseo ordered. Do not wait to confirm kills. The human ships vanished, leaving only wreckage behind. When the next Valtrine patrol found the debris field, they sent a priority message back to Thexvar. Entire fleet destroyed. No survivors. No indication of enemy ships in area. Thexvar realized then that the Valtrine Empire was facing an enemy they did not understand. On the surface of Valtrine colony worlds, different battles were being fought. Sergeant Doyen Lee crouched in the darkness, watching the Valtrine military compound through his helmet's enhanced vision. Around him, 23 other Marines waited in absolute silence. "Remember," Doyen whispered into his comm, "we are here for the human prisoners only. No civilian casualties, no unnecessary damage. Get in, get our people, get out." "Understood, Sergeant," his team replied. They moved like shadows. The Valtrine guards never saw them coming. Human stealth suits made them nearly invisible, and their weapons were equipped with suppressors. The Marines took down the guards silently, not killing them, just using stun weapons to knock them unconscious. Inside the compound, they found 17 human prisoners, merchants and diplomats who had been arrested when the war started. The prisoners were thin and scared, but alive. "United Earth Marines," Doyen said as he cut through the cell bars. "We are taking you home." One woman sobbed in relief. "I thought you had forgotten about us." "We never forget our people," Doyen replied. "Can you walk?" "Yes, then let us move. We have 10 minutes before the guards wake up." They extracted all 17 prisoners without firing a single lethal shot. By the time the Valtrine military realized what happened, the Marines were already off-planet and jumping to safety. This pattern repeated across Valtrine space. Human Special Forces teams struck at prisons, extracting captured humans. They hit military intelligence offices, stealing data about Valtrine operations. They sabotaged supply depots and communication stations. The Valtrine could not track them. They could not stop them. They could not even predict where the humans would strike next. Lieutenant Yuna Cho flew her starfighter through the asteroid field, her neural link AI helping her dodge obstacles at speeds that would kill any normal pilot. Behind her, 3 Valtrine interceptors tried desperately to keep up. They could not. Yuna's fighter was smaller and faster. Her AI predicted the Valtrine movements before they happened. She spun, fired, and watched one interceptor explode. She dove between 2 asteroids that were so close together that the Valtrine ships had to break off. When they came around, she was waiting. 2 quick shots. "2 more explosions. Tango 3 here," she reported. 3 confirmed kills. Returning to carrier, her squadron commander responded immediately. "Confirmed, Tango 3. Good hunting." "That brings your personal total to 51. Yuna did not feel proud. She felt tired. 51 Valtrine pilots dead by her hand. 51 lives taken in revenge for New Pyongyang. It did not feel like enough. It would never feel like enough. But it was necessary. Admiral Seojun Park stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution, watching the Valtrine Fifth Fleet assemble for battle. Finally, the Valtrine had decided to face humanity in open combat, rather than just losing ships to invisible attacks. "All ships, battle stations," Seojun ordered calmly. "Execute Battle Plan Delta." The human Third Fleet moved into formation. 60 warships against 300 Valtrine vessels. On paper, it should have been a massacre. The Valtrine outnumbered humans 5-1, but numbers meant nothing when technology was superior. "Valtrine Fleet is powering weapons," his tactical officer reported. "They will be in firing range in 30 seconds. "Let them fire first," Seojun said. "Shields to maximum. All ships prepare to demonstrate why they should have accepted peace." The Valtrine fired. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human fleet. The human shields absorbed everything. "Not a single ship took damage now," Seojun said. "Return fire. Show them the difference between their technology and ours." The human fleet fired as one. Every ship's AI was linked, creating a coordinated attack that targeted specific weak points on enemy vessels. The antimatter warheads were smaller than Valtrine weapons but infinitely more powerful. Valtrine ships started exploding. Dozens at first, then hundreds. Their shields could not stop the human weapons. Their armor was like paper. Their ships were built for intimidation and trade protection, not real war. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, 300 Valtrine ships had been reduced to 47 survivors. The survivors fled, jumping to faster-than-light speeds in complete disarray. The human fleet had lost 23 ships. Most of those were damaged but repairable. Only 3 were total losses. Transmission from the Valtrine survivors, the communications officer said. They are begging for mercy, Seojin considered. Tell them mercy is available at the War Crimes Tribunal. If they want to live, they should surrender themselves to human custody and testify against their commanders. Otherwise, they can run. We will find them eventually. Across the galaxy, species watched the battle footage in shock. The humans, who everyone thought were primitive and weak, had just destroyed a major Valtrine fleet with barely any losses. They had technology that nobody knew about. They had tactics that were devastatingly effective, and they showed no signs of stopping. On Valtros Prime, the Valtrine homeworld, Empress Sekthra watched the battle reports with growing concern. Her empire was losing, badly. In 6 months of fighting, they had lost over 800 ships, dozens of military installations, and control of 15 colony worlds. The humans had lost less than 100 ships and had not given back a single meter of territory they captured. We must petition the Galactic Council for intervention, one of her advisors suggested. The humans are fighting dishonorably. They use invisible ships and weapons that ignore shields. This is not civilized warfare. Sekthra clicked her mandibles in bitter amusement. We murdered their children and you speak of honor? We bombarded civilians and you speak of civilized warfare? But Empress, do it, she said tiredly. Petition the council. Beg them to save us. See if they care about honor when it is our lives at stake. The petition was sent. The Galactic Council called an emergency session, but the humans had a message prepared, and they transmitted it to every species in the galaxy. The Valtrine Empire asks for mercy. They ask for the galaxy to save them from the consequences of their own actions. They murdered 14,000 innocent humans and paid no price. Now they face justice and they cry that it is unfair. We have one response: we do not negotiate with murderers. Not now, not ever. Justice will be served. Lord Thexavar read the message and knew then that the Valtrine Empire was doomed unless they could stop the humans. He began preparing for a desperate gamble. If the humans would not negotiate, then he would make them. He would take hostages. He would use civilians as shields. He would force the humans to choose between their precious morals and their military objectives. He did not know that humans had already predicted this move. They had planned for it, and they had already decided what they would do. No compromises. No negotiations, only justice. The Galactic Council chambers were packed again, but this time the atmosphere was different. Fear hung in the air like smoke. The galaxy had watched humanity dismantle the Valtrine military with terrifying efficiency, and now everyone wondered if they would be next. High Arbiter Kolmek floated to his position at the center of the chamber. His crystalline body pulsed with light, a sign of stress among his species. This emergency session is called to order. We are here to address the ongoing conflict between humanity and the Valtrine Empire. Ambassador Sunho Kim entered the chamber, but he was not there to negotiate. He wore a simple black suit and his face showed no emotion. Behind him, the holographic presence of President Jeon Han appeared, her image projected from Earth. Counselor Vrex clicked forward on his insect legs. The Valtrine representative looked different now. His exoskeleton was dull, his movements jerky with stress. Honored Arbiter, the Valtrine Empire petitions for immediate intervention. The humans are conducting an illegal war. They refuse all diplomatic contact. They reject ceasefire offers. We are executing war criminals, Sunho interrupted. That is all. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Kolmek raised an appendage for silence. Ambassador Kim, the Council has called this session to arrange a ceasefire. Surely humanity does not want this war to continue indefinitely. President Jeon's hologram spoke, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. You are right, High Arbiter. We do not want this war to continue. We want it to end with justice. The Valtrine Empire will surrender all military officers involved in the New Pyongyang massacre. They will stand trial under human jurisdiction. They will face the consequences of their actions. When that happens, the war ends. Vrex's mandibles clicked in agitation. Unacceptable. The Valtrine Empire does not surrender its officers to foreign courts. This is a matter of sovereignty. Sovereignty? Sunho's voice was cold. You speak of sovereignty while you murdered 14,000 people on a sovereign human world. You speak of rights while you burned children alive. Tell me, Counselor, where was our sovereignty when you attacked us? The chamber fell silent. Kolmek tried to regain control. Both sides have legitimate grievances. The Council proposes a compromise. The Valtrine Empire will offer a formal apology and increase reparations to 100 million credits. In exchange, humanity will cease all military operations and return to the negotiating table. Gion's laugh was bitter. 100 million credits. For 14,000 lives. That is 7,000 credits per person. You think we can be bought? President Han, please be reasonable. Reasonable. Gion's eyes flashed. I will tell you what is reasonable. Every officer who participated in the massacre will stand trial. Every commander who gave those orders will face justice. Every politician who authorized the attack will answer for their crimes. That is reasonable. That is justice. Empress Sekthra's hologram appeared in the chamber. The Valtrine ruler looked exhausted. President Han, I speak to you directly. I offer my personal apology for the tragedy at New Pyongyang. It was wrong. I acknowledge that. But continuing this war will only lead to more death. Please let us find peace. Did my people get a chance for peace? Gion replied. Did the parents get to hold their children one last time? Did the doctors get to save their patients? Did anyone at New Pyongyang get a choice? Sekthra's antennae drooped. No, they did not. Then neither do your war criminals, Gion said flatly. Surrender them or we will come take them. Vrex clicked forward angrily. The humans make demands as if they have already won this war. The Valtrine Empire still has thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, and the resources of 50 worlds. You are one species fighting an empire. You had thousands of ships, Sunho corrected. You now have hundreds, and that number decreases every day. Kolmek tried again. President Han, the Council cannot allow this war to destabilize the entire region. If humanity continues its advance, other species will be affected. Trade routes will be disrupted. Economic damage will be severe. The Council must act to preserve peace. Then you should have acted 8 months ago, Gion said. When we begged for justice, you gave us excuses. When we asked for Council protection, you counted your profits. Now you want us to stop because it is economically inconvenient? No. The Council could vote to impose sanctions on humanity, Kolmek warned. We could freeze your assets, ban your ships from Council space, and isolate you economically. Gion smiled without humor. Do it, we do not need you. We never did, several Council members gasped. No species had ever rejected the Council so completely. Sunho stepped forward. Let me be clear about humanity's position. We have withdrawn from all Council activities. We do not recognize Council authority over human affairs. We do not accept Council mediation. We do not care about Council opinions. You had your chance to be relevant. You chose money over morality. Live with that choice. He turned to look directly at Vrex. As for the Valtrine Empire, here are the terms. They are not negotiable. Surrender all officers involved in the New Pyongyang massacre within 30 days. Surrender Empress Sekthra for trial regarding her government's responsibility. Allow human investigators full access to all military records. If you do this, the war ends immediately and your species will be allowed to rebuild in peace. And if we refuse, Vrex demanded, then we will take Valtros Prime, Sunho said simply. We will land troops on your homeworld. We will hunt down every war criminal. We will dismantle your military completely. Your empire will cease to exist. The chamber erupted in chaos. Species shouted at each other. Some demanded humanity be punished. Others quietly reconsidered their own military policies. Kolmek tried desperately to restore order. Ambassador Kim invading a homeworld is an act of total war. The Council cannot allow such aggression. The Council allowed the murder of our colonists, Gion said. The Council allowed genocide. The Council allowed an empire to escape justice. Do not speak to us of what can or cannot be allowed. You lost that authority when you failed your most basic duty. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every species representative. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Humanity joined this council hoping for a community of civilized species working together for peace and justice. Instead, we found a marketplace where lives are traded for economic advantage. We wanted partners. We found cowards. Empress Sekthra spoke again, her voice desperate. President Han, I understand your anger, but if you invade our homeworld, millions of civilians will die. Surely you do not want that. We do not want any of this, Gion replied. We wanted to farm our land in peace. We wanted to raise our children safely. We wanted to build a future. Your empire took that from us. Now you face the consequences. But the civilians, we will not harm civilians, Jiyon said firmly. Unlike your empire, we do not bomb hospitals. We do not murder children. We will conduct surgical operations against military and government targets only. Any civilian casualties will be accidental, not intentional. That is the difference between us and you. Sunho pulled out a datapad. We have transmitted a list to the Valtrine government. 847 names. Every officer who participated in the attack on New Pyongyang. Every commander in the chain of command. Every politician who authorized the operation. They will stand trial. This is not negotiable. He looked at Empress Sekthra's hologram. You have 30 days. After that, we are coming. The hologram connection ended. Sunho walked out of the chamber without waiting to be dismissed. Behind him, the Galactic Council collapsed into arguments and chaos. Some species wanted to impose sanctions on humanity. Others wanted to stay neutral. A few quietly began strengthening their own militaries, wondering if they might be next. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Jiwan Nam received confirmation that diplomacy had failed. She was not surprised. She had expected this outcome. General Bora, she said into her communicator, begin final preparations for Operation Reckoning. We are going to Valtros Prime. General Borashin saluted. Understood, Admiral. The Marines are ready. We have been ready for months. I know, Jiwan said. Make sure your troops understand the rules of engagement. No civilian casualties. We are better than them. We have to be. They understand, Admiral. Every Marine knows what we are fighting for. Justice, not revenge. Good. Because the galaxy is watching. When we land on that planet, we will show them what real military professionalism looks like. We will show them that humans can be ruthless to the guilty while protecting the innocent. Across human space, the final invasion force assembled. 200 warships, 100,000 Marines, thousands of support craft. The largest military operation in human history was about to begin. On Valtros Prime, Empress Sekthra called an emergency meeting of her government. They are coming. The humans are really coming. They will not negotiate. They will not compromise. They want justice. Lord Thexvar clicked his mandibles. Then we will make them pay for every meter of ground. We will use civilians as shields. We will make the cost so high that they have no choice but to negotiate. No, Sekthra said tiredly. That will only prove them right. That will show the galaxy that we truly are murderers. Then what do you suggest, Empress? Should we just surrender? Sekthra looked at the list of 847 names. The Valtrine homeworld of Valtros Prime hung in space like a giant jewel. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans, green continents, and massive hive cities that housed billions of Valtrine citizens. It was the heart of an empire that had existed for thousands of years. Today, it would be invaded for the first time in its history. General Bora Shin stood in the command center of the assault carrier Vengeance, watching the tactical displays. 200 human warships were in orbit, and the Valtrine were throwing everything they had at the fleet. Thousands of defensive satellites fired missiles and energy beams. Hundreds of Valtrine warships fought desperately to push the humans back. They were losing. Orbital defenses at 40%, her tactical officer reported. Enemy fleet reduced to 200 ships. They are breaking formation. Continue surgical strikes on military targets only, Bora ordered. Avoid all civilian areas. I want constant monitoring of collateral damage. On the planet's surface, Valtrine civilians watched the sky turn bright with explosions. They had been told that the humans were monsters who would kill everyone. But the orbital bombardment was targeting only military bases, spaceports, and government buildings. The residential areas were untouched. In the capital city of Thexlar, citizens cowered in their homes, waiting for death. Instead, loudspeakers began broadcasting a message in the Valtrine language. Citizens of Valtros Prime, this is General Bora Shin of the United Earth Marine Corps. We are here to arrest war criminals, not to harm civilians. Stay in your homes. Do not approach military areas. Comply with Marine instructions. Anyone who does not resist will not be harmed. We repeat, we are not here to hurt you. Lord Thexvar listened to the broadcast from his command bunker and snarled. They think we will simply surrender. They think their pretty words will protect them. Activate the Civilian Defense Protocol. His officers hesitated. The Civilian Defense Protocol meant using citizens as shields, placing military installations inside residential areas, and using hospitals and schools as command centers. You heard me. Thexvar chittered. Activate it now. Across the capital, Valtrine soldiers began herding civilians toward military positions. Thousands of people were forced into buildings that would become targets. Children were taken to army bases. Elderly citizens were moved to ammunition depots. In orbit, General Bora watched the thermal imaging with growing anger. They are using civilians as shields. Those buildings that were empty an hour ago now have hundreds of heat signatures. Captain Jaehyun, one of her senior officers, shook his head. This is what we expected. The question is, what do we do about it? Bora did not hesitate. We adapt. We do not bomb those buildings. We send in ground forces instead. Our Marines will extract the civilians and arrest the soldiers. General, that will cost us casualties. Many casualties, I know, but we are not the Valtrine. We do not sacrifice innocent lives for military advantage. Pass the word to all units. No bombardment of civilian-occupied positions. We go in on foot, the dropships launched. Thousands of them descended through the atmosphere, heading for landing zones throughout the capital city. Valtrine anti-aircraft fire filled the sky and dozens of dropships were hit. Human Marines died before they even reached the ground, but the rest kept coming. Sergeant Doyen Lee gripped his harness as his dropship shook from explosions. Around him, 23 other Marines prepared for combat. The loadmaster shouted over the noise, 30 seconds. Remember your training. Protect civilians. Only fire on active combatants. The dropship hit the ground hard. The ramp dropped, and Doyen rushed out with his squad. They were in a residential neighborhood. Valtrine civilians stood in doorways watching in fear. A young Valtrine child, no more than 5 years old, stared at Doyen with huge compound eyes. Secure the area, his sergeant ordered. Lee Hyejin, check those buildings for soldiers. Doyen and Private Hyejin Seo moved to the nearest structure. They found 3 Valtrine soldiers inside holding 6 civilians hostage. The soldiers aimed their weapons, using the civilians as shields. Drop your weapons, Doyen shouted in Valtrine. Let the civilians go. You drop yours, human. One soldier chittered back. Or I kill them all. Hyejin whispered into her comm. Sergeant, we have hostiles using civilians as shields. Requesting Neuralink sniper support. Approved, the sergeant replied. A mile away, a human sniper linked his neural interface to his rifle. The weapon's AI calculated wind, distance, and target movement. Through Doyen's helmet camera, the sniper could see exactly where the Valtrine soldiers were positioned. 3 targets, 3 shots. Synchronizing, the sniper whispered. 3 suppressed shots rang out in perfect sequence. All 3 Valtrine soldiers dropped simultaneously, killed instantly by shots that had entered through tiny gaps in their armor. The civilians were unharmed. Clear, the sniper reported. Doyen rushed forward. The civilians were screaming in fear, convinced they were next. Instead, Doyen helped them up and guided them outside. You are safe. We are not going to hurt you. Please go to your homes and stay there. The civilians fled, confused but alive. This scene repeated throughout the city. Human Marines encountered soldiers using civilians as shields and adapted their tactics. Snipers made impossible shots. Breaching teams used stun grenades that knocked out soldiers without harming nearby civilians. Combat AI directed fire with surgical precision. The Valtrine military had assumed the humans would either stop attacking or would accept civilian casualties. They had not anticipated that humans would risk their own lives rather than harm innocents. Captain Jaehyun led his company toward a hospital that Valtrine soldiers had turned into a fortress. Hundreds of patients were trapped inside and the Valtrine were daring the humans to attack. No bombardment, Jaehyun ordered. We go in room by room. Every patient gets evacuated before we engage the soldiers. His Marines entered the hospital from multiple points. They moved slowly and carefully, checking every room. When they found patients, they carried them to safety. When they found soldiers, they used non-lethal methods first. It took 8 hours to clear the hospital. 22 Marines were wounded. 3 died. But every single patient was evacuated safely, and the Valtrine soldiers were captured alive. War correspondent Yunbi Kwan followed a Marine platoon, documenting everything with her camera. She had expected to film a brutal invasion. Instead, she watched Marines risk their lives repeatedly to protect civilians. She filmed Doyen carrying a wounded Valtrine child to a medical station. She filmed Hyejin sharing her rations with hungry civilians. She filmed Marines building temporary shelters for displaced families. She broadcast it all to the galaxy. Across known space, species watched in amazement. The humans were conducting a military invasion, while simultaneously protecting the enemy's civilians. They were fighting a war while maintaining their moral principles. Lord Thexvar watched the broadcasts and realized his strategy had failed completely. The humans were not breaking. They were not compromising. They were simply better than he had thought possible. In desperation, he made one final move. He gathered 500 Valtrine civilians, including many children, and forced them into the government building where he had his command center. Then he broadcasted a message. Humans, you want justice? You want to arrest war criminals? Then come take this building. But you will have to kill these civilians to do it. Show the galaxy what your justice really looks like. General Bora received the message and called an immediate halt to operations near the government building. Get me a detailed scan of that structure. I want to know exactly where the civilians are and where the soldiers are. Her intelligence team worked for 2 hours, using advanced sensors to map every person in the building. They identified Thexvar's position, his officers' positions, and every civilian location. We can do this, her assault commander said, but it will require precision beyond anything we have attempted. One mistake, one stray shot, and civilians die. Then we do not make mistakes, Bora said. Prepare a multi-team insertion. Neural link coordination. Every shot planned in advance. We get one chance. She broadcast a response to Thexvar. Lord Thexvar, we are coming for you. We will not harm the civilians you are hiding behind. We will arrest you and every officer with you. You will stand trial. You will answer for New Pyongyang. Using innocents as shields will not save you. It will only add more charges to your crimes. Thexvar chittered in laughter. Impossible. You cannot take this building without killing civilians. Accept it, human. Your principles have a price. Then we will pay it, Bora replied. But the civilians will not. The assault began at 0300 hours. 60 elite Marines entered the government building from 12 different points simultaneously. They moved in complete silence using stealth technology and neural link coordination. They found the first group of civilians on the second floor. Marines gently guided them out while others covered potential ambush points. The civilians were terrified but unharmed. On the fourth floor, they encountered Valtrine soldiers. The firefight was brief and precise. The soldiers were killed or captured without any harm to nearby civilians. On the seventh floor, they found Thexvar in his command center, surrounded by children he was using as shields. Stay back, he chittered, holding a weapon to a child's head. One step and I kill them all. Doyen was part of the team that entered that. 2 years had passed since the fall of Valtros Prime. Earth's capital city of Geneva was hosting the most important trial in galactic history. 847 Valtrine officers sat in the defendants section of a massive courtroom that had been built specifically for these proceedings. Dr. Yunji Park sat in the witness gallery, her hands folded in her lap. She had testified 3 times already, describing the attack on New Pyongyang in painful detail. Around her sat other survivors, all waiting for the verdicts. The lead judge, a human named Justice Kim Seonhwa, reviewed the final documents. The trial had lasted 18 months. Every piece of evidence had been examined. Every witness had been heard. Every defendant had been given the opportunity to present a defense. This court has reached its verdicts, Justice Kim announced. The courtroom fell silent. Of the 847 defendants, this court finds 847 guilty of war crimes, including but not limited to deliberate targeting of civilians, genocide, crimes against humanity, and violations of the laws of war. Empress Sekthra sat in the front row of defendants. She did not protest or argue. She simply listened. Justice Kim continued, Empress Sekthra, you are sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. You will serve your sentence on the human penal colony of Titan, where you will have time to contemplate the consequences of your orders. I accept this sentence, Sekthra said quietly. For the other officers, sentences ranged from 20 years to life, depending on their level of involvement. Lord Thexvar, who had given the direct order to fire on the colony, received life imprisonment plus an additional sentence for using civilians as shields during the invasion. Outside the courtroom, war correspondent Unbi Kwan was broadcasting live to the galaxy. Today marks the end of the longest war crimes trial in history. Every defendant has been found guilty. Justice has been served not through revenge or emotional reaction, but through a careful and fair legal process. She turned her camera to show the crowds gathering in Geneva. Humans stood alongside aliens from dozens of species. Some had come to protest the harshness of the sentences. Others had come to support humanity's stand for justice. What is most remarkable, Unby continued, is that despite the guilty verdicts, not a single defendant was executed. Humanity chose imprisonment over death, rehabilitation over revenge. This sends a message to the galaxy. Justice is about more than punishment. It is about establishing consequences and maintaining principles. On the colony world formerly called New Pyongyang, now rebuilt and renamed Remembrance, Do-Yun Lee stood at the memorial wall. He was no longer a sergeant. He had left the military after the war and become a teacher. His students were children, both human and alien, learning about history and justice. The memorial wall was made of black stone, polished to a mirror shine. On it were engraved 14,237 names. Every person who had died in the massacre, every life that had been stolen. At the bottom was an inscription: "They did not die in vain." Their sacrifice reminded the galaxy what justice means. A group of Valtrine visitors approached the memorial carefully. They were civilians who had come to pay their respects and apologize for their empire's crimes. One of them, a young Valtrine named Teklar, placed flowers at the base of the wall. "I am sorry," Teklar said quietly in accented human language. "My people did this. I cannot undo it. But I want you to know that many of us are ashamed. Many of us want to be better." Do-Yun looked at the young Valtrine. He felt the old anger rise, but he pushed it down. "Thank you," he said. "Your apology cannot bring them back, but it is a start toward healing." Teklar nodded and moved away with his group. Do-Yun's student, a human girl named Jiwon, asked him, "Teacher, do you hate the Valtrine?" "I hate what they did," Do-Yun replied. "But hating all Valtrine because of what their leaders did would be wrong. That would make me no better than them." "That seems hard," the girl said. "It is hard," Do-Yun agreed. "Justice is always hard, but it is necessary." On Earth, Fleet Admiral Jiwon Nam stood in her office for the last time. She was retiring after 40 years of military service. President Ji-Yun Han had come personally to present her with the highest honors humanity could give. "You kept your promise," Ji-Yun said as she pinned the medal on Ji-Won's uniform. "You delivered justice without compromise." "We all did," Ji-Won replied. "Every person who served, every person who believed that principles matter more than convenience. They delivered justice. What will you do now?" Ji-Yun asked. "I will teach," Ji-Won said. "At the military academy. The next generation needs to understand why we fought this war. They need to know that justice is worth fighting for, even when it costs us dearly." "We lost over 10,000 Marines in that war," Ji-Yun said quietly. 10,000 lives spent to bring 800 criminals to justice. Was it worth it? Ji-Won did not hesitate. Yes. Because if we had not fought, if we had accepted the Council's compromise, then those 14,000 civilians would have died for nothing. By fighting, we gave their deaths meaning. We showed the galaxy that human life has value that cannot be bought or negotiated away. At the new Galactic Council headquarters, which was no longer on Harmony Prime, but on a neutral station managed jointly by multiple species, Ambassador Sun-Ho Kim presented humanity's new treaty. "The Accords of Terra," he announced, "establish new principles for galactic civilization. First, genocide and crimes against humanity will be met with immediate intervention, not economic considerations. Second, justice cannot be negotiated away for convenience. Third, all species have equal rights to protection, regardless of their economic or military power." He looked around at the assembled representatives. Many were familiar faces from the old council. Others were new, sent by species that had reformed their governments in the wake of humanity's example. "We invite all species to sign these accords," Sun-Ho continued. "But understand that signing means accepting the responsibilities they require. You cannot just benefit from protection while ignoring injustice elsewhere. We all stand together, or the accords mean nothing." By the end of the session, 43 species had signed. More would follow in the coming months. The old council, which had valued economics over justice, was dissolved. The new federation was built on principles that humanity had paid for in blood. On Valtros Prime, life was returning to normal, but it was a different normal. The Empire was gone, replaced by a democratic federation of Valtrine worlds. The new government had publicly apologized for the massacre and was working to reform Valtrine society. A young Valtrine politician named Seknor gave a speech in the rebuilt capital. Our empire failed because it valued power over morality. The humans taught us that true strength comes from principles. We must never forget this lesson. We must build a society that our descendants can be proud of. In the audience, General Bora Shin listened. She had been invited as a guest of honor by the new Valtrine government. After the speech, Seknor approached her. "General Shin, thank you for coming. Thank you for showing mercy when you could have chosen revenge." Bora shook her head. "We did not show mercy. We delivered justice. There is a difference. Mercy is giving less punishment than deserved. Justice is giving exactly what is deserved, no more, no less." "Then thank you for your justice," Seknor said. "It was more than we had the right to expect." President Ji Yun-han stood before the United Earth Assembly for her final address before leaving office. She had led humanity through its darkest moment and its finest hour. Now it was time to pass the torch to the next generation. "When I took office," she began, "humanity was a small player in galactic politics. We were ignored, dismissed, and underestimated. Today, we are one of the most respected species in the galaxy, not because we are the strongest, but because we proved that principles matter more than power." She looked at the faces watching her. Humans from every nation, every culture, united in purpose. We did not want war. We wanted peace. But when peace came at the cost of justice, we chose justice. We paid a terrible price. 10,000 military deaths, countless wounded, years of sacrifice. But we kept our principles. We did not become monsters while fighting monsters. She paused, letting her words sink in. The galaxy is watching us now. Other species are reforming their governments, changing their laws and adopting our values. Not because we forced them to, but because we showed them a better way. We showed them that you can be strong without being cruel. You can win wars without sacrificing your morals. You can demand justice without becoming tyrants. The assembly rose in applause. "My final message to humanity is this," Jian concluded. "Remember why we fought? Remember the 14,237 people who died at New Pyongyang. Remember that their deaths had meaning, because we refused to accept injustice. Remember that justice is not just about punishment. It is about standing up for what is right even when it costs us everything." She stepped down from the podium to thunderous applause. That evening, Dr. Yoonji Park returned to Remembrance for the annual memorial service. Thousands of people gathered at the memorial,